Bit of a change of scenery today. Banks of the Burnett River near Bundaberg. If you see the city of Bundaberg just off there to the left, that's where the Bundaberg rum is made. Good place to pick up some rum that you cannot purchase anywhere else. But guys, this is an intro video to something a lot of you have been waiting for. And that's the video on the Victron Management portal. Let's cue to the video. Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm Philip from good old little Bundaberg. Today's video, the one you've been waiting for, guys, the one you've been waiting for. It's on the Victron Management portal. So I'm going to go through over some of the features. Well, actually I'll go through over most of the features of what you can do and some of the information that you can gain from your 12-volt system, which will help enormously in troubleshooting. And in fact, another thing that it helps a lot is for remote monitoring. Not just remote monitoring where you can access your 12-volt system while you're away from your vehicle setup, your camp setup, your caravan setup, etc. Or if you've got your vehicle in storage. Let's say your vehicle's in storage, you're going for a holiday and you're going to the airport and you're flying somewhere and you got your vehicle in storage. Then you'll be able to check on your 12-volt system. Because how many times have we heard the stories of people accidentally fully discharging their battery on their camper trailers or caravans? And in fact, even your four-wheel drives, if you don't use them regularly on a regular basis. Because these batteries still very slowly, they self-discharge over time. Now, if you've got a setup, say for example, some of the systems that are set up now with your LEDs and so on, and what I mean with the LEDs is with your battery monitors, etc. And they got those little LED lights that come on and off at times, are flashing to indicate, if it's a green, good state or so on. You'd be amazed over time how that can discharge a battery. And many people get confused like that. So a lot of people ask me, what's the benefit? Why would you want all this? Well, there's the main reason there. There's one reason there. And if you're a real techie nerd like I am and love data, stuff like this, well, this is fun to deal with this stuff, guys. I can't tell you how much fun it is to go over and check your data. And I'll show you shortly. And it gives the information, not just that, the information it gives you. Like, for example, if you've got an issue with the battery, okay, and then they're trying to not cover the warranty on the battery, well, then you got proof. You can go on here and show them the data, giving that battery a hard time. Or they say, oh, you discharged it too low or something. Oh, it's gone down below 12.2, or it's gone below 12 volts or something. You can use this data to check on consumption. One LED light compared to another one. How much power does that consume? Your fridge. How much power does your fridge consume? How long does your fridge cycle for? Well, you can go through all this. But then you really, I'd suggest the Cerbo GX, guys. The Cerbo GX. Because if you want accurate data like that, because I've done some videos on the Victron Globallink 520, and then I did the video on the Cerbo GX. I updated to the Cerbo GX. Guys, 100% my recommendation is to go for the Cerbo GX. If anything, it's actually cheaper than the Globallink, but if you want remote connection, you do have to purchase that 4G, that Victron 4G LTE dongle. It was a bit expensive, but I can see why. The quality is there. It's really efficient. Okay, it's really efficient. What I say by efficient is that it picks up a really good signal. Picks up very good signal. Like it's working right now. I'm able to connect to it when it's parked in my garage. And that didn't work with the Globallink. So if you go to some of my videos, you'll see some of the issues with the Globallink. And in fact, I've got the Globallink sitting right beside me here. And as soon as I finish filming this video today, I'm going to pack this up and send it back to the distributors here in Australia like one of the distributors located down the Gold Coast. I'm sending it back so they can do some tests on it, because this thing just doesn't work. It's just not working. It's skipping 2 hours of data. So now with the Cerbo GX, if you have a look on my other videos where I announced the Cerbo GX and the installation in my vehicle, you can set that to send data up once every minute. And you can do that constantly. 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. It'll do that constantly as long as that vehicle is within signal service. But let's say you're going somewhere. Let's see if you're going to Birdsville, for example, and there's no signal out there. You can buy just a cheap little 16 gigabyte micro SD card or whatever. I think it's a micro SD card. You can attach that to your Cerbo GX. And all that data is then going to be saved on that card. And then when you're back home, you'll be able to retrieve that data and go over it and look at it and see, hey, you know, what my battery's been doing, how's the solar panels performing, etc. And that's another thing in regards to solar panels. If you've got a solar panel that's permanently mounted on your caravan, on the rooftop, or on your rooftop tent, or on your four-wheel drive, like many years do, you can, over the years, you could go back and compare, like this period last year, to see how it's performing to how it is now. So that way you could tell, you know, is it playing up? Is it on its way out? Is it performing like it used to? You've got all that data there you can go to. So I'm going to show it to you now on the computer. And I'm going to show you some of the data that is retrievable. Well, actually, most of it. It all depends what unit, what you're using, what Victron items you got in your 12 volt system. So let's cue to the screen capture on my computer and I'll show you the Cerbo GX. The Victron Energy Management portal is free, of course. So all you do is go onto their website. So just do a Google search and you go onto their website, sign up. It's free to sign up. So you sign up, and then once you've done that, now if you don't have any gear yet, you don't have your 12 volt system set up, there's actually a demo section and you can go through there and see some of the data and play around with it yourself. So it's not a bad idea to do that. So this is my setup here. So as you can see, it shows the current weather. It shows where I'm living and part of Bundaberg I am, whereabouts. So yep, it is pretty cool today. So as of filming right now, it's 9:30 in the morning and it's 12 degrees. So you can see I've got a light jacket on and my another light jacket over the top. So I've got 2 layers on today. So she's a little bit cool. My ears are a little bit cold. But oh, that fresh air. It's so easy to breathe. I love that cool weather there. So here we are, guys. So you can see my battery's on idle at the moment, although the fridge is running, but I've got the AC charger. Now, as I'm filming this right now, I'm still using my old AGM battery. When you first open the portal and you select your install, this is the first screen that you'll see. So you can see it's showing that the battery is idle, it's 100% charged. Now if you go through here, you can see that it's on float. I know it's on float charge because it's on 13.63 volts. And at the moment it's shown 0 amps. Okay, so when the fridge runs, so I've got the fridge on 24 hours a day. So obviously right now it's not cycling. So it probably won't cycle for at least half an hour, and then it'll cycle for about 10 minutes, and then it won't cycle for a minimum at least half an hour again. And that's pretty much the pattern I've noticed of the fridge that's been running. And you can see the current temperature, that temperature is 17 degrees, that's the temperature of the AGM battery. So I've got a battery monitor temperature gauge on that, which is an optional accessory that you can purchase with your BMV 712 Victron battery monitor. So I purchased the battery gauge for that, the battery temperature gauge for that as well. And that's where that temperature is coming. So if you're wondering why that's different to what's shown up here on the weather, 12 degrees, that's why. That's I'm circling there is the battery temperature. Now if I had the solar panel running, you'll see what the wattage the solar panel will be putting on. So you can see that's on off state right now. So if that MPPT Victron solar regulator was running, that would show what state of charge it's in here. And this here, this is something I'm going to look into and something I'm going to utilize in the future. If you've got one of those, like those multi-plus units, the Victron multi-pluses, which has got the AC charger and your inverter, so you've got the AC charger and the inverter all built into the one. Well, that's what that is. So this here will then you be able to connect this to the Cerbo GX, and it'll tell you the AC input, okay, so the load that's coming in from the AC, and then it'll tell you the AC loads. So if you've got your inverter on and you got something on, you know, like you're charging a battery or something through the 240 volt or something, or you're running your coffee machine or whatever, then that will tell you what it's drawing. And this will also be uploaded to the portal, and you'll be able to go back in time to see how your battery is performing and the solar panel's performing. So if we go down here, we scroll down here, you've got a bit of a system overall, okay? So I've chosen the dates now. You can see here, so I can go back to the past and choose the dates when I want to see this data. So over these couple of days here that I'm showing you here, I was vigorously testing this out, and I had the solar panels out during the day as well. Well, probably about 3-4 hours during the day, and that's what you can see here. Okay, so you can see on the 29th, and it'll show you the energy that it produced. So it produced 0.3 kilowatts that day. And if I go to the next day, well, on the 30th I didn't run the solar panel, but on the 1st I did, and it produced 0.62 kilowatts. So I've got a 250 watt solar blanket. Okay, so if you're wondering what sort of power I'm running, it's a 250 watt solar blanket. So what you see here, battery minimum 72%, maximum 100%. So that indicates to me that my battery got down to 72% state of charge overnight by the time of the morning. So if I go through this one here, 76, 92%. I purposely didn't fully charge the battery on that date, on the 30th, because I wanted to get the battery down. Alright, I wanted to get the cycle down to about 60-70% so I can test these solar panels to see the data on that, which I'll show you soon. So that's why that is. Okay, and then of course you got a choice here. You can choose the system overview, or you can just choose your solar. So that's the solar. Okay, so that's how many over those couple of days here, when that solar panel was running, it put in 0.9 kilowatts into my system. So eventually with time, as you get to use this more, it'll come up, it'll have your averages, your last 365 days, etc., as you can see there. So we'll go back to the overview. Now on the left, you've got your options that you can choose. So if you go to the advanced, this is where all the magic happens, okay? If you go into the advanced. Alright, so here you can see all the data, or you can add all these graphs. So at the moment I've just got these graphs selected. So you can add all additional graphs in here. And what you do after you've set this up, what you do is you go and click on the widgets icon. Okay. Here it is. It was already open. Alright, so here's all your gateway. Here's your battery monitor. Here's your solar charger. Alright. So these are the two devices that I've got connected to my gateway, which is go through that Cerbo GX. So I've got my battery monitor, which is the 712 smart battery monitor, and I've got my solar charger. And through here, if I click on the plus through here, I can go through and click on which item I want to add to me data, to that list. So you can see here I've got system battery voltage and current, and I've got the system battery state of charge, and I've got the GPS here as well. We'll talk about that soon, and I'll show you some of the data that it picks up off that soon. So, and then we got the other choices I could use is I've got the AC consumption, the AC genset. So if you're using a generator, okay, so it'll show you what it's consuming, etc. Your battery power, DC system, PV yield, which is your solar panel, etc. Your relay state, etc. Battery life state, critical loads, etc. So you got all those choices there. And then you go into your battery monitor, and you've got even more. So you can see the ones that are blue and the ones that are ticked are the ones I've selected. So if I select any of these other ones, then they'll also will show up in that graph. Now you see don't have the battery state of charge selected here. That's because I've already got it selected up over here through the system. So there's no point having that graph twice on there. But you can see all the different settings on here. Now the BMV 712 battery monitor, you can also monitor your starter battery if you wish. I haven't chosen to do that, so it's just the basic monitoring. I think it just monitors the voltage and so on. And that's where that here, starter battery voltage, if you see here, you can set that, you can have that as well. So, and then of course we've got the settings for the solar charger. So if we go through here, and you can see I've got 4 selected here, and you can see the other options I've got set here. Now, interesting, these are the additional, you can see these additional 8 here. This is a feature that's part of the Cerbo GX. So what these are is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I can purchase sensors. There are various different types of sensors that are available that you can use, and that will monitor how many litres you've got in your tank. So it could be oil, it could be fuel, it could be water, okay, anything like that. So up to 4 tanks you'll be able to monitor, and they too will also show up on your graph, okay. Same as your temperature sensors. Now I'm going to purchase a couple of extra temperature sensors because Victron make these different, slightly different temperatures. Not the same, it looks very similar, but it's not the same as the one that I purchased for the 712 battery monitor. This one's slightly different. So I can add up to 4 temperature sensors. Now, for example, where that comes in handy, I could have one inside the vehicle. Okay, so I can monitor the temperature inside the vehicle. And I'm definitely going to do that one because I like to do that, have a temperature sensor set close to the fridge. That way, when I'm doing my data recording and I'm doing my future reviews, I can compare how much that fridge consumes in certain different temperature environments. So how cool would that be? So definitely that one, I'm going to do this for that. You can also have another temperature outside the vehicle to get the temperature outside. You could have a temperature sensor inside your fridge, for example, as well, if you wish, and it'll monitor all that. So there are all the extra options, okay? So let's go out of that now, and let's start going to the graph. So the first graph we see here is your big battery system state of charge. Now I can vary the size of these graphs, as you can see, like so. I can do that. So this is the state of charge of what my battery is. So these 2 days before I started my test, the battery was fully charged. And then I let it run. And you can see how the battery state of charge is dropping down. Now remember, all this data here that you can see here is recorded once every minute, and it never fails. It never fails. And how it does that, there's three ways it can connect to the network through this. The first one is you got a Bluetooth. So it'll Bluetooth to your mobile phone. So the Cerbo GX has got Bluetooth. Another feature, it's Wi-Fi. So it can Wi-Fi to your network at home, which is probably how it's connecting right now. It'd be connected via Wi-Fi. But I can go through into the remote console. See this remote console? I'll show you that soon, and I'll explain that to you soon. And in there it'll tell me which system it's actually using at the moment. I would imagine it's probably Wi-Fi. I would imagine. So you can see how it gradually drops down. So from about when it was on 100%, from about 3 o'clock of an afternoon on the 29th of June, and by about 9 o'clock the next morning, my battery's on about 85%. So it used up 15% of me. And what's that? That's over, what's that, 18 hour period, is it? Something like that. I don't know, I've got to work out my maths. I think so. So that's with me 75 litre fridge running in both zones. One zone is run as a freezer and the other zone is run as a fridge. So that's a 75 litre. So you can see how efficient that is. And of course I've got a 120 amp AGM battery. Now you notice here how it's dramatically dropped down quite quickly. Alright, so what that is I've actually connected my travel buddy up and turned it on, and I cooked lunch that day. So you can see I started the travel buddy fairly early in the day, and it ran for quite some time. And then the battery state of charge got down to 76. This graph here, battery voltage and current. So that's the battery voltage and current. So this is kind of giving you an idea when it was charging. That's when I had the solar panel on. That's when I had the solar panel on. This here, I think, is when I had the, the AC charger on it, or it could have been the solar panel. I don't know. But let's scroll down, because I've got the solar. Here it is. This is the graph I wanted to show you guys. Let's just move this graph over here. This is when I ran the solar panel. So I connected on the first day when I tried this test on the 29th of June. I ran the solar panel from 11:56 AM right through to about, I think I disconnected just after 4 o'clock. Now that I've moved these graphs around, another thing I want to show you. Alright, let me change this here. And let's just move the battery temperature sensor over here. Right. Another thing is, notice how when you move the graph along, it shows you the same correspondent point in time with the other graphs that were measured. So here we can see at this time, right, so on the 30th of June at 1:30, I can see the battery state of charge was 82.3. I can see that the voltage was down to 12.61 and the current was 3.32. So that's telling me that's a fridge. So when the fridge runs, that's about what it draws. So that's when the fridge was running. And the battery temperature at that moment is 23 degrees Celsius. So if I scroll along here, let's have a look. Putting out 181 watts. So it's a 250 watts, and that's at 11:08 AM. So that's pretty good going. I reckon that's pretty good for winter time. And of course you got your solar charge current as well. And then the other one is your, let me just scroll this one over here. Another interesting graph is if you have a look at this one here. This graph here, it shows you the MPPT state with 278 on it. It shows when the solar panel was in the off state, when it's in bulk charge, when it's on absorbent, when it's on float. You can see here on this day here I switched it off before it was fully charged. It got to the float charge because I think I had to go uptown then, so the DC-DC finished off the charging cycle. And in fact that's what that might be. This here, 20.76, that's what it is. I know now. That's when I went uptown and I had the DC-DC charger running. Okay, so that's when I reached uptown. So I stopped whatever I was doing uptown, picking up something, and then I got me drive back home. So you can see how it's putting in up to upwards of 20 amps. So that's the DC-DC charger. And then I came back home and parked in the backyard again and let the battery drain down overnight. So you can see that graph there that I'm pointing here as it's draining down. And another thing is, if I zoom in right here, alright, so I can zoom in on the data right here. I want to show you, now on this day we had some warmer weather, but I want to show you the cycle of the fridge. So when you see this graph is up the top here, okay, so that's when it's not cycling. So you can see the fridge, and when it cycles you can see it drops down here, and you can see on average the 3.5-4 amps that it uses, and then it gets back up to the temperature, and then it doesn't run. But have a look at how long it doesn't run for. So that's midnight, and that fridge 35 minutes, there we are, 35 minutes before it cycles. And once it cycles, so let's have a look and see how long. It's 36 and 50. So what's that? 36. So it cycled for about 14 minutes. It ran for 14 minutes and then it switched off for half an hour. That's when the weather was a little bit warmer too. We had a few days that was quite warm, but it's cooled right down now. So that's that data. Now let's go back to today's data. So this is today's data, and I want to look at that same cycle rate now that it's cooler, particularly through this hour. Okay, let's have a look. So you can see here the fridge is cut in. So it's at 3:01 in the morning, and it's ran for, what's that, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. 3:13. Look at that, guys. 3:54. 3:13, 3:54. 40 minutes, just over 40 minutes, that fridge did not cycle. So how interesting is that? Now this would be a very interesting graph to check in summertime here when we get those really hot days. Now that I'm going to fit a lithium battery in within, hopefully it'll arrive within the week, I'm going to grab my angle and I'm going to whack it in the back of the car, and I'm going to monitor, turn off one fridge while I run the other fridge, and hopefully it'll be over similar conditions. But we'll be able to check to see if the conditions are similar, because remember it's also going to, particularly if I get that extra temperature gauge that monitors the temperature inside the vehicle, that'll make sure that I ensure I've got extra data. So I'm just interested, I just want to see the difference in the angle and this 75 litre fridge, because I reckon this 75 litre fridge run as a fridge and freezer in a combi is more economical than what my angle, because I got the combi angle, which means it's a fridge freezer, so I can run it as a fridge or I can run it as a freezer fridge. And when I run it as a freezer fridge, I reckon it used more power than what my, in summer, mind you, this is in summer, so this is not a test that I won't be able to do these tests until we get these big hot summer days in January, February, March of next year. But that's one of the tests I'm going to be running. So after I run those tests, I'll do a video on it, and we'll go back on this graph and I'll be able to show you the difference between the two fridges. So it's a shame I didn't have this set up about a year ago or 2 years ago. That just gives you an indication of some of the accurate data they'll be able to achieve. Now you can't do that with the Globallink, because at the best of times when it does work, it only uploads that data every 15 minutes. So this is okay for overall. Okay, if you're not really into techie stuff and you just wanted to monitor, you know, the system, and you're happy with just having it at the best of times, uploading the data every 15 minutes, then this will be perfect. For example, in those situations that I mentioned earlier on, your vehicle is parked in a storage somewhere. Well, as long as you've got good strong signal nearby, and I would suggest to get a really good quality external antenna for this one. External antenna don't appear to be required on the other system that I've got with the 4G LTE and the Cerbo GX on there. It doesn't seem, because it seems to work really well. But this one here, you definitely will need a external antenna. Now you can go from the last hour, etc. So you can see the data there from the last hour. Now I've got this battery on float charge at the moment, so the AC charger is connected to it since I've came back home yesterday. You can see the battery's only sitting on 17 degrees Celsius. You can see that the MPPT state the charge is switched off because I don't have a solar panel connected to it. You can see the battery history here. So since I've had the 712 battery monitor set up, let me move this back here so I can move this here. So you can see here, deepest discharge since I've installed the 712 battery monitor is 40.2 amps. So that's the most I've taken it out in one cycle. Last discharge, well, it's not showing anything there because the battery's at an idle state. Okay, so if I turned off that charger, then that will start recording the amps that it's used until I fully charge that battery again. Average discharge, that figure hasn't come up yet because I think it needs to cycle through a number of times, I believe, before we get any data there. Charge cycles, again, that one figure hasn't come up there again as well. Maybe I don't have the perimeters set up properly. And the total amp hour drawn, so that's the total that's drawn out since I've installed the 712. Minimum voltage is incorrect. They ignore that. I don't know why it's showing 0.02. I think it's got something to do with the perimeters were not set up correctly when I first installed it, and then I plugged the solar panel in and it showed up as a 0 voltage somewhere. It just wasn't accurate, and I've since rectified that. Maximum voltage is probably pretty well spot on, 14.61 there. So that's your summary. And then you've got your solar charge summary, so you can see it's showing that it's off. So if it's on, okay, it'll show you the wattage here. Now, this here is updated every 2 or 3 seconds. So you could watch this live, and every 2 or 3 seconds it's updated right through to this. That's if you're within your network. If you're within your network like I am right now, like this will be updated every 2 or 3 seconds. Now the other thing I want to show you is this remote console. Now with the Cerbo GX you can purchase an accessory, and it's a HD screen, touch screen. It's a 5-inch HD touchscreen. I believe it's about $200 or $300. I'm not too sure. I choose not to purchase it because I've got my computer screen I can view this on, and I've got my phone I can view all this on. So all this info is all accessible by phone as well through the Victron Management Portal app. But if you purchase the screen, the HD screen, this is what it'll show. This is what you'll get on that screen. So you can see that the battery 100% charged. Okay, it's on 13.6 because it's on float charge. And we got the charger, the solar panel charger is not running. Now, if we had one of those Victron Multi Plus or something like that, or an inverter, an AC charger, all those details will be shown up through here, through that. But through in here, when you want to adjust the perimeters, the settings, etc., this is what you use. So what you do is, if you click on this, eventually the menu will come up. So if you click, let me go back to that. So we'll click on the menu. So this is the device list. So in here, if you go, so here's the solar regulator. So it's showing 0 watts, so it's not operational at the moment. But if you scroll up the top, so we'll just go through here and show you the menu here. So you can see all the battery sensors, you can see all the fuel tanks, and this is where you go into the settings. You can see the BMV712 smart controller. So it's showing the battery's at 100% charge, and we're at 13.63 volts on the battery, and it's currently zeroing. It's not putting any amps in, it's not taking any amps out. So that's indicating still, after all, since I've started filming here, that fridge hasn't started to run yet, but remember, it's a very cool day today. But if you go right down the bottom here, and then you can go into the settings. So we click on the settings. Now if you got the optional screen monitor for this, it's a touch screen. You can just quickly go through the settings. So you can see here, through here remotely, I can go through here and change some of the parameters and settings for my 12 volt systems, and also update the firmware as well. So if we scroll down a little bit more, in here, alright, let me show you the VRM online portal. So got 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, and 1 hour. So what that is that's how often it'll upload to the Victron Management portal. So when you remotely connect to the system, it'll show you the data, for example, once every minute. So obviously I've got it set to once every minute. Now up the top here, you'll see here, that's my Wi-Fi signal. Alright, so it's showing me I've got 2 bars out of 4 in the Wi-Fi, and that's with the vehicle parked in the garage out in the backyard on the other side of my yard. So I'm at the furthest that I could be from my vehicle in my yard, and my modem is located inside this room here. That one there, that's my 4G. So you can see it's parked inside the garage and it's picking up a stronger signal than the Wi-Fi. So it's got 3 out of 4 bars of 4G. And remember, that 4G LTE dongle is just sitting on the rear chair with the included antenna. So it doesn't even have an external antenna. It's just got the short little stubby antenna that's included with it. So let's go back. I've also got a GPS tracking device mounted through the Victron device here. So if I just scroll down a bit more, I should be able to see those settings. And it also will be the settings for the dongle, the Gsm modem. So here's the Gsm modem, so I'll click on that. So you can see here I'm connected to the Telstra 4G. So I bought a prepaid SIM card for the mobile phone, and I'm using that at the moment, because the difference is with this one here, if you get the Globallink, it actually includes the data with it for 5 years, but I've found out since, it's very limited, the network that it can use. For one, it'll only connect to 4G. So you have to be in a 4G area. A lot of areas in Australia, a lot of towers are still in Australia, in rural areas, are 3G. So with this, I will not be able to connect where I connect with the Cerbo GX. And another thing, it uses even though it's on 4G, it uses a limited bands on the 4G network. So even with a 7 dB antenna connecting my backyard, this here was missing data. It was missing data with a 7 dB external antenna. So it just doesn't seem to work well on the towers here. So I think depending on where you live, the towers that you use, if you go and invest in a very good quality, expensive external antenna, it's going to boost the performance of this enormously. So if you go for one of these guys, the Globallink 520, I recommend to invest in a very good external antenna as well, because otherwise it's going to miss a lot of data. So let's go back, and one more thing I want to show you is the GPS. There we go. I want you to have a look at this. Number of satellites is picked up as 16. Now I've got that thing located under my rooftop tent. So it's stuck by a magnet. It's stuck on the roof of my Pajero, in the middle, under my rooftop tent, and it's inside the garage. So that's quite impressive. In fact, it's still picking up 14 or 15 satellites inside the garage. Now as soon as I go outside, it'll pick up more satellites as well. So let's go back to, I think if I click on pages, it takes me back to this screen over here. Now if this was charging, if I had the solar panel charging, there'd be a little arrow that'll be flowing, and it'll show the flow, the charge rate, the flow rate, which direction it's going. So it'll be showing that it's putting info back here. So once I get this connected, I've got a multi-plus, and this is operational, it'll then show the data going out this way. But if I got the solar panel on, and it's producing more power than what's consumed on here, well then it'll be feeding some of that power into here, and it'll also be feeding the power in here, so it'll be charging this battery as well. So it's quite interesting. If you'll be able to see all that working if you go through the demo. Have a click, install this program on your computer. Well, you don't have to install it, although there is an app that you can get for your mobile phone, but you don't need to run it through the app. You can just go to your web browser and just sign in an account there and go through the demo and go through there and have a look and play around with it yourself. The thing is that the GPS, you can set up a geo fence around it. So what happens then if that tracking device or your vehicle goes outside of that geo fence, it'll set off an alarm. So you could have like an alarm system set up on your vehicle, it'll go off. I'm not sure how you do that, but apparently it can be done. Or you can set it up so it'll send you an alert by your email. I believe it's via email. Or through the app itself. So I reckon that's another good feature. Remember earlier on I mentioned, you know, like if you got your caravan or your vehicle in storage somewhere, or you're camping somewhere, or you got your vehicle parked in town somewhere and you're worried about someone's going to pinch your vehicle, well then this will alert you when you go outside that geo fence. Just remember to turn that geo fence feature off before, when you get back to the vehicle and you jump in to go drive off, otherwise you'll get an alert to say that, hey, you know, your vehicle's moving. Now it'll also plot a chart where you're going, so then it saves a, what sort of, hang on, let me just have a look down here, GPS track. So you can see here I can download a GPS track. So if let me do that actually, let's go last 24 hours, because I did some driving around yesterday. Let's go back a little bit longer. Actually, let's go back to yesterday. This is the data from yesterday. I did some driving around. Let's save that. Let's click on this. There we go, guys. See what I mean? It actually, when you're driving, you can download the graph and shows you where you've been. So for you folks that were watching that video I filmed last night and asking where that location was, where I filmed that blog, where I announced what type of lithium battery I went for, this is how you get to it. So on the left here, you can see right there, that's the Milliken mill that I mentioned. And right here, that's the Bundaberg rum. So that's that turn off when you drive in and you turn left to go into the Bundaberg rum. Instead of turning left, just go straight ahead and follow this road. And as you can see, this road just follows this river for quite some distance. And there's all these nice little places you can stop, park on the side. And this is where I was yesterday. And I was filming in this direction, and then I filmed in that direction as well. So you can see it's not too far from the... That's the marina, and that's the mouth of the river just there. So you can see how it's not too far. So this is brilliant. You can trace... And another good feature with this here, guys, is that not only you can send a link. You can send a link of all this data, this portal, to your family or friends, and then they'll be able to go on here and see where you are. They'll be able to download the GPS file and see what route you're driven on. Okay, so if you're a lone solo camper like I am, and you're going somewhere camping on your own, and say, for example, you know, something's happened or whatever, you got issue with the vehicle. Well, as long as your vehicle is within some sort of network coverage area, so you do want cellular, of course it'll probably be an issue if you're not in a mobile signal area. But if you are, then they'll be able to check on your progress. Say like you're driving on the highway and you're going to your sister's place. I could send her this data. I could send this data to my nieces, and then they'll be able to log in. Just click on, and then I'll send them a link. All they got to do is click on that link, and then they'll be able to follow as I'm driving along and see where I am, check where I am, and know when I'm close to their place. So that's another big benefit there. Okay, guys. So I wanted to show you that. Hang on, how do we close that? Okay, so that's how that works. So let's go back to, say, last 24 hours. So you can see from here, just running you see the battery temperature as it's cooled down, etc. I know this is a long video, but there was a lot to show you. In fact, I can't wait to get this jacket off. It's actually warmed up a bit here now. So if you have any questions, let me know. Do yourself a favour and go and do a search for this Victron Management portal if you're interested in something like this. Sign up to it and check out the demo. Go through the demo feature and have a look through there, and you'll be able to play around with some of this data and some of this stuff that I showed you. So check that out. And of course, to get something like this going, you need one of these devices. Either this Globallink 520 that I do not recommend, guys. I'd be steering clear of this one. Or the Cerbo GX. So go for the Cerbo GX with the additional Victron 4G LTE dongle. Go get yourself a prepaid SIM card, ideally Telstra, and in fact, if you're on a new mobile phone plan at the moment, whatever data you got on your phone, you can go uptown and pick up another SIM card and share that data with your new mobile phone, which I believe means there's been no additional charge then when you use it on your Cerbo GX. So I've still got 1 year contract left on my phone, but when that 1 year contract ends, then I'd be able to get another plan that includes, it can share up to 10 other devices, the data on it. So you can't make phone calls through that, but you can share the data on it, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I need. So if you're wired, so if anything, it's not going to cost you anything. So if you're on one of those new data plans, Telstra's come out, this will not cost you anything to monitor. So how cool is that? I've got to wait about a year before I'll have that advantage. So in the meanwhile, I'm just using the cheapest prepaid plans that I can find. Because even if you're uploading data once every minute, on average, you're only going to go through about 25 megabytes per month, I heard. That's all it is, about 25 megabytes per month. So it uses very little data. So you're going to have no issues whatsoever. So you're on one of these new mobile plans for Telstra, the postpaid one. I'm not sure if it works on prepaid. I don't think so. On your mobile plan, there's a real incentive there to go with the Telstra. And of course, they got the biggest coverage around Australia, I think, particularly in the remote areas. So guys, thank you very much. This is quite a long video. I can see we've been going for an hour. So what I'll do is I'm going to edit this and edit it down to see if I can edit it down as short as possible so it's not too long for you guys to watch. But as you can see, there's a lot of information there and it takes quite some time to go over it. So guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It'll help me. Also, another thing, when you see these ads pop up and they're clickable ones, don't click on end the ad, because if you do that, I don't get paid. What little money I make is coming from those ads, particularly the clickable ones. Okay, so if you let those ads play right through, then I'll get a few more dollars in my pocket by the end of the month, hopefully. Especially if all of you do that, it'll certainly add a bit more dollars in my pocket, and then I'll be able to go out there and purchase more items to review. And how cool would that be? Okay guys, so look after yourself, be kind to everyone. Until next time, cheers.